Never get tired of that. All right, people are starting to show up and view. Let me know on the comments, guys. How's the sound? You guys can hear me? Sound check, everything good? We have some interesting news going around. Also, the elections. It has been coming up rather quickly. I know it seems like it's gonna be a while till we get there, right? When early voting starts April, May. But before you know it, we'll be hitting that time. We'll be right there. Thank you for joining us tonight, guys. This is the Maverick Times podcast. This is we're on episode 30 now. So it's been a while. It's been a while since we've been as consistent as we used to be with a weekly show. Now we kind of pick up when we can, but there's no lack of news and entertaining stories that are coming out from our community. I haven't seen a thumbs up. Anybody, you give me a thumbs up if the sound sounds good for you guys from our community. Never mind. I just noticed that. Uh, Sounds good. It sounds working all right. So, moving forward, we have several items that we want to discuss, and it's a couple, and we may not get to all of them tonight. But one of the things, and as it says on the title, what we have going on are the Eagle Pass city elections. The registration just finished on Friday, so no one else can be added to the race. The contestants are as is, they're in place. We have two contestants or two candidates for the mayor, City of Eagle Pass mayor race, and that'll be the Maverick County Hospital District Board Chairman, Aaron Valdez. And we also have current council city woman, Monica J. Cruz. Both of them are running for the mayor seat. We have two candidates running in the City of Eagle Pass City Council Place 2. That would be the Covenant City Councilman Elias Diaz. You also have the business, a local businessman, Mr. Sierra, uh, running for that same place. I believe it's the first time that he has ran for office, if our historical context serves correctly. But he is running against Elias Diaz, councilman, who has this would be his final term as a city councilman due to the new laws of only serving a limited amount of years. So that race is going to be interesting. In place 4 for City of Eagle Pass City Council, we have actually four contestants, and I'm going to go ahead and check on these for you. We have three whole new people running for that seat. That seat is actually the one that was vacated by, or that is going to be vacated by Councilwoman Monica Cruz. So one of the contestants we have is, of course, an educator, Jessica Ramon. She is running. She's one of the ones who is running in the race. We have another a local attorney by the name of Alberto Rodriguez, that is also running. If you guys remember or follow elections like we do here, Alberto Rodriguez did have an unsuccessful bid for district attorney 4 years ago, a little bit of more than 4 years ago. So he ran against current district attorney Roberto Serna. He did gather quite a bit of votes, but and it was a highly contested race, right? But Roberto Serna did survive 4 years, and he did go uncontested this cycle around, winning another 4 years elected term as that 293rd district. Um, judicial district attorney. So you have Alberto Rodriguez. You have the third person, and let me get this name for you guys. I don't want to say it incorrectly. That's Hansen Uy Tessi. Excuse me if I pronounced it incorrectly. But this gentleman, I'm not sure how well he's known. I know, and it's not to say anything, but we're not familiar with him. We do know he does work in the medical field. Um, in our poll, he did get a couple of votes, right? But this is somebody that it's relatively new to, I would say, not Eagle Pass in general, but again, the political scene. Maybe we're not well acquainted with him, but the other ones, of course, as we mentioned a little bit about each of them, going into a descriptive of where these people are going to be running, what place in city council they're going to run from the mayor to two places, place two, place four, that are up for grabs. The only actual incumbent here would be Elias Diaz, the council person. He, you have Monica that is still in city council, but is actually moving up to mayor, so she would not be considered a incumbent, right? So we had a poll going on, and some of these polls we try to make them as best as we can, and as engaging as we can. So it's simple for you guys to vote. One of the other aspects that I would like to say before we reveal, the way the poll came out, we're going to show it to you here shortly. Is that when we were looking at the numbers, it did kind of seem so using Google Forms, if you are privy to some of the things, or if you've used it before or several times before, you do come acquainted with some of the items that can be done. Now, the poll, it's not to say that it's not a legitimate poll, because if people are willing to vote, 5, 10 times for you, they're willing to vote 5 or 10 times for you. But it is, in all fairness, you can't do that in any other regular poll or any other voting. So what that is one thing I will say before we bring up the poll is I do want people to know that in the process of making this poll easy for you guys, the audience, community out there, to be able to cast a vote where you don't have to necessarily show your face. You don't. We've done Facebook polls before. The issue with the Facebook polls is that we do have several people that do not participate just because they know that whenever you choose one side or the other, your profile can be looked up on what side you went. So that's one of the things that a lot of people have stressed and reached out to us about, and they want to participate in the polls that we have. They're interesting. They have something to say, so they vote in these polls, and you can see by the numbers we have. I mean, nobody's going to sit down and press these buttons 100 times, guys. So, but the amount of responses we got, and we'll share that with you guys shortly, it tells you that people do want to share how they feel, what they think, and they want to express who they support. But they also don't want it to come with a cost, a kind of cost where el compadre se enoja contigo. My buddy back from high school doesn't want to talk to me because of who I support in this election, or much worse thing, graver things would be being retaliated upon because you chose that you were going to elect this person in this poll, and they saw your profile or your wife's profile, your kid's profile, whatever the story may be. So I think that in saying we did not, some of these numbers could have been messed with a little bit, but you would think that people wouldn't do that. We would have a little bit of an honor system, but be that as it may, you do have a situation where we try to make it anonymous so people don't so people can participate. People don't have to have any restrictions. It's easy as hitting the link. It presents itself to you. You press the buttons, and it gets submitted. So we went that route for this poll as opposed to another poll that we had on Facebook. We did get a high number of engagement and votes. Now, every single vote, we're going to take a guess here, is that they're not individual votes. There probably were some that voted in batches, and that's how we were able to see a trend as it developed. There was major swings to both sides and different candidates, and this was all through the different places. Um, that's including the mayor's race. So I think that before we reveal these polls, that does need to be said. We are going to release them because I'm not going to not show them to you because of whatever reason. But I do want you guys and everybody watching right now and that is going to watch this later on to just think about that, is that the possibility was there. There was a high amount of voting. Um, there were certain trends again where a certain group of candidates would rise, and then again another group of candidates would rise. And you could see if you were following the poll and looking into the poll, and you can recognize that. Um, but we do think that maybe there were a couple of people out there that did vote more than once. Now, the only way you can avoid that from happening on Google Forms, which is the platform we use, is to restrict it and require an email address to log in and post your vote as an individual person. So it would actually tag your email address, a Gmail. I mean, you can go and create one if you want, or create 100 as well, right? But that's what happens. And I know not everybody has a Gmail. Um, some people use it, not everybody does. I know it's only a certain demographic, maybe the younger folks, um, older folks that are not used to a computer maybe want to vote, but can't really vote. And those are the issues that we kind of deal with here. But I did not want to present these numbers without telling you, in monitoring these things through the years, there were several instances that look kind of funny. And again, I'm not pointing any fingers as to anything or anybody did anything. I don't know. I cannot see. Again, we try to make this as streamlined as possible. One, so people don't have to fear any retaliation for voting any other way. So you're not marked there. Your vote's not tied to anybody. But again, that does leave a back door for people to take advantage and vote several times. I cannot say if everybody did it. I can't say if it was a certain person that did it, but the numbers are a little off. And in the future, we'll probably have to require a Google account to um, make sure each individual votes, or just do Facebook polls, because it was a bigger number than we expected we were going to get, and it's less than 24 hours. In our experience, that is actually more votes than we have gotten on these types of polls that we did. So that's why we looked into the trends of things. And again, I'm not saying that it says anything negative, positive. It's just saying that there was an opportunity for somebody to. It could have happened. Some people could have gone in to vote a couple of times. I would hope that we're all adults here and we don't try to circumvent situations or systems. But there was fluctuation and there was kind of something a little weird going on. But again, it was all set up so you guys can have the ease in voting, where you do not have to worry about logging in with a Google account. You don't have to worry about any kind of repercussions that you may have gotten because you voted a certain way. So let's go ahead and get those polls out here so you guys can take a look. Again, just because they may not tell you a totally accurate picture. I do believe that you guys should see, especially since you guys were expecting to see some results on this. Give me a second. I'm bringing it up for you guys right now. All right. Well, I'm what I'll go ahead and do is I'm going to show you the back door of these things, and you can go ahead and take a look and notice what could be done or the possibilities, right? So let's get that. Okay. So whenever you click into these polls, what happens? You click the link, and it brings you to this here. We try to make it as simple as possible. We also had a glitch happen where one of the candidates' names was incorrectly written. So whenever the correction was made, it divided into two. So that put a situation right, but we were able to fix that, and there was no mistakes given. But we saw later on with a record of I don't think I've ever had 4,675 responses on these things. I mean, I'm glad that you guys are out here wanting to push your support your candidates and everything. But let's go ahead and give you guys, if you haven't already looked into, again, just remember the things that we spoke about before we revealed these. You can look at the numbers and kind of make the determination yourself. But 467, 4,675 responses. This is how many votes came in. Again, they were not linked to any Google account. We do this to keep you anonymous and everybody here safe from any kind of retaliation, which I can tell you is a real thing when you deal with some people. I've been on that other end a couple of times myself, so it's a very real concern, and that's why we try to do it the way we do it. But again, there are always things that can happen and will happen. Um, so you have the first race right there, 4,675 votes. You have a Maverick County Hospital District Chairman Aaron Valdez receiving 1,444 for just under 31%. Councilwoman Monica J. Cruz receiving, a big number, 3,218 with 68%. Jesus Casas, 21 votes at under 1%. So, guys, I don't have a timing where it shows you at this time it was this, how it was. Unfortunately, I'm not able to do that, but there was fluctuation. And when I go back and check the records, there was a lot of votes, and it could have been a situation where people um, submitted multiple votes. Again, the reasons why we do that we shared to you before. We try to avoid anybody getting any form of retaliation because of the way they vote. Our polls on Facebook weren't so they had decent amount of interaction, but a lot of you guys had concerns about the anonymous vote that you guys would like to have, for the reason being, you don't want anybody to upset anybody. So in the race of city council place two, 4,605 responses. Again, you have Jorge Sierra with 3,072 votes with 65%. You have councilperson Elias Diaz with 1,622. That's 35%. Again, I would err through the uh, it's a big gap. There were a lot of changes back and forth whenever we would look into it to provide you guys some kind of update. I'm not saying that Jorge Serra didn't get more support than Elias Diaz. What I'm saying is that there was an opportunity for people to vote multiple times, and it seems that that may have happened. How much that or how many times that happened, that I cannot tell you. It's difficult to say here without sifting through all the votes. If I go through all the votes, I'm sure you can find a trend and commonality in some of these things. But who will win city council place four? Again, the same amount of votes came in, 4,675. Jessica Ramon with 1,546 for 33%. Alberto Rodriguez 3,075 with 65%. Hansen Uitesi 64 votes with 1.4. Guys, so these are the final results. Again, I will urge you to be cautious of how you take those votes. It is a good indicator that there is support, but the actual numbers, again, may have been tampered with a little bit. The only vulnerability that it does have, if you're trying to stay anonymous and maximize participation throughout our community, unfortunately, creating roadblocks to those things made it difficult. But I believe moving forward that that is a necessity, and that's something that we're going to have to do. Where if you are going to want to vote in the polls we have, which we are the only place that does these kind of polls, at least for the past couple of years, um, we want to make everybody create a safe environment where you can submit your opinions, your votes, your responses, how you feel things should be done. But we want to do it to where you can stay shielded by that anonymity that allow you to express yourself if you cannot otherwise. So that being said, guys, those were the results for the poll that we had. Again, you can see the big difference, and reasons for the big difference can be explained. We're going to have to call another poll getting a little bit closer to when election or early voting comes. We're going to have to safeguard that and do our due diligence in closing everything just to Google accounts. You will have to log into Google to submit a vote. And that's going to be able to prevent multiple voting on these polls for the Maverick Times. I appreciate the attention you guys gave to the poll and wanting to contribute your voice. Let's go ahead and cut that one down so we can move on to the next topic. So, you have a city council election that is coming up. You know the candidates, they are set. There is not many who have actually been in office. So you have a lot of newcomers coming in, other than those mayor candidates that each respectively have their experience. One at the Maverick County Hospital District Board, serving as the chairman. And you also have Monica Cruz, who is currently a councilwoman, who is wanting to move into the mayoral position. So it's always interesting whenever you get to these elections and looking on the outside of these things. I think one can, if you're looking at the way the water is running, you can see where the current is flowing, right? So you will be able to see a lot of things out there. People are posting, they're block walking, they're doing what they feel they need to be doing to win an election. Now, one of the observations that we made, and other people have commented to us about, is the fact that here in Maverick County, Eagle Pass, the election cycles are starting to start much earlier than previous. I think before, not even that long ago, 5, 10 years ago, people were a little bit more lax with the elections and would kind of wait until registration, after registration, um, you know, a little bit longer until they started their full campaign, whatever it is that their campaign managers have in store. But we've seen that line, especially with this election, the most recent election, we've seen that timeline jump up almost nearly a month. And what I'm saying is that everybody is starting much sooner than expected, especially with the city council elections. Now, the elections don't start end of May, early end of April, early May, but you are seeing everybody is already pushing out um, their their political paperwork. They're out there again, block walking, social media. You're seeing a heavy presence for in social media from almost all the candidates. Some do need to start doing their process of campaigning because the way everybody is starting with a much everybody moved up the start date. I'm not sure why, I'm not sure how, who it was, but the date to start this, it was much sooner than everybody expected. So it's catching some of the candidates off guard, and some of the candidates will need to start uh, getting out there and actual boots on the ground, block walking, or starting to secure some of their votes um, because of the people who started off much earlier. So again, I think this trend started just recently with this election, but I think that that's going to stay from now on. People are getting more interested in this political type of atmosphere, especially with what's going on in the federal political arena, the Texas state political arena, and then getting down here to the local governments where you have counties and cities. And of course, that is the same type of show you get with the federal and the state. Uh, so above as above, so below. Everything's the same, guys. Whether we realize it or not, there's a lot of congruencies within the different levels of government as to what is being pushed in a cultural sense, and also pushed in a political sense, if that makes, if you get my point. But so moving on with this election, it started much sooner, but it's going to get here faster than you know. So you have two strong candidates for mayor. We're hoping that we'll be able to get both of them, each of them, in an interview sometime soon for you guys. If not this month, early next month for sure. But if we can get them with this month, with about 2 weeks left, we'll try to do that. We do want to ask them several questions that you may have. And if you have any questions, you can post them on the comments and I'll write them down here. And we can ask these candidates some of the questions that you guys might want. I hope that they are willing to do some type of debate. I hope they choose our platform, the Maverick Times, to have that debate. I think the majority of our audience can agree that we struggle whenever we have debates, and debates are good. I think it's a necessity, especially given our period in time of where we're at, where politics has been somewhat thrusted into the limelight. You do need to have a certain way of handling those things. And not to say that the news media that has done it before in Spanish, or anybody else that's done the debates before hasn't done a good job, but I think that having a English platform, the Maverick Times is able to reach the massive amount of people we've been able to reach the past couple of months. 1.8, 1.9, 2 million views on some of our content and videos and news that we have going out there. I think that a debate would be a great opportunity for both candidates to showcase not only what they want to do, bring it out in public, but have the other person, critically um, go through with what they're go through their process and try to debate as to what process would be better and which one would fit our community. Now, a lot of the things that I can tell you from my experiences is that many times some politicians, and maybe not from here, um, unless they were from here and no longer live here. But state and federal, they don't really know the situation down here as well as somebody that's here local. So I think that that is a big difference whenever we're choosing any type of a representative, not just as in politics, but you have to know your area, and that's very important, especially because each area, each geography is different, and the people are different. I've lived and worked in Eagle Pass and Del Rio, and it's like almost night and day. The people are different. The atmosphere is different, and that's something that people, if you're not accustomed to or adaptable, you're not going to be able to get in there, right? And that's just the situation. Um that's just social studies type of things where you have a different type of demographic. It's not going to say that you're not going to survive or you can't thrive in there, but it's going to be a learning curve to be able to get there and understand the way the people here are to be able to garner or garnish their vote, get them to vote for you, right? You want them to vote for you, so the best way to get somebody on your side or to uh, feel the way you feel about a particular topic is to relate to them at their level. Um, Tie in an emotional bond and you get a vote over there. And politicians are good at doing that. They are trained to do that. But it's much easier for somebody that is from the culture and is not pandering to the culture. Now you can live here and you still could live in an area and you still can pander to a certain area, to your area. And that's something that, I didn't think was possible before, but I've seen through all of these races that happen. Again, not just local races, but at every level, you see different things and you begin to recognize the subtleties of how the political science aspect of all this works. So that's saying that I'm segueing into my a new segment here. We talked about the city council. That's going to be a good race. Both candidates are going to have both candidates in each level. You got the mayor, city council place two, and three candidates actually in city council place four, but those are going to be tightly contested races. It's going to be interesting how they're going to develop and the momentum that's going to move forward. See, we're just kind of tipping off. I know a lot of people have been seeing the political signs for a little bit, the ads coming out, but the reality is we still have half of February, all of March, and the majority of April until we're actually able to cast any votes. So we're probably about 2 months out before we get to start anything. So we're just scratching the surface about each of these candidates. And again, I do want to invite all the candidates. Uh, if you are interested in being interviewed or having a podcast with us um, in relative to your campaign and what you stand for, we are open to anybody coming and taking some time with us. We can do it a virtual one. That's the easiest for everybody most of the time, but I believe that everybody should have an opportunity to come on our Maverick Times podcast and let everybody know in our community what they want to do, why they are running, and what inspired them to follow the path that they are following currently. Um, but we'll leave that section and segment with that invitation. We do want to get into a situation that is it's going on right now. I don't think that many people are talking about it, but there is sources that we have spoke to, and if you read our article, have read our article earlier in reference to what is happening currently in currently with the situation we have at with a local news media um, is going to have some trouble. So let me bring out what's going on. Now, it's very important to understand when you have, whenever you do any type of content, media, or provide a service like we try to, in informing everybody out there of what's going on in your community. Excuse me. So it's very important to understand and recognize situations. And as a news media, I'll say that you're, or any news media, anybody that does commenting or anything like that, I don't think our intentions are to do any harm, but there is a way that you can do harm. That's recognizable. We can see that, and we you should, as a news media or a commentator or anybody that participates in critiquing local government officials, which I have no problem with, should take into account. There's one thing where if you're saying the truth about something, you're good. If you are getting the opinion of somebody or getting someone else's truth and just stating the fact that, hey, this is what they said and this is what I think about it. That's totally fair, and that's within your First Amendment rights. I mean, you're allowed to critique, comment, uh, whether it's whether it's a elected official or anybody that may be considered a public figure, right? Because it's not only elected officials that are considered public figures. That being said, you have a situation where news media has a certain type of integrity, or should have some type of integrity, where they do not participate in fabrication of the news. In other words, making up stories, which you can totally do. I mean, it's just as easy as making a story and putting it up. I mean, I think all of us went through the school system where we had to write stories, journals, or something, where sometimes you had to get creative on those things, and that's what you did. So you have that, right? You can totally write an opinion piece and you can critique and you can say, what have you. But whenever you straight out lie about something or as uh, present something that is not factual as fact, or participate in a situation where you give out information but don't provide receipts to the information, right? I think that that's where a lot of medias might get in trouble. And, of course, there's always that one off ball shoot that, media does provide, made a comment about something that they saw on a government site and still gets, uh, sued and allowed to get sued and all that. But when you are, the bar is a little bit higher with defamation when it comes to local officials. Um, and that bar, once it's set, the standard is that they have to cause intentional harm, into knowingly cause intentional harm to the elected official. And to rise to that occasion is usually difficult to do. But if, let's say, any news media continues to lie about a situation or manipulate a situation, and is printing out, dispersing, disseminating this information as facts, then there is a problem, right? Um, Especially when there is no documentation as to what are the facts. So it's one thing to present the facts and criticize them with your opinion. Now it's another to present not all factual statements as factual statements. That's where news medias can get in trouble for skating along that gray area, while skating on that green area, putting yourself at risk, of course. But once you're in that gray area, it's very difficult to jump out without any scratches, so to speak. Um, Now, I've always been a strong supporter of present the facts and let the person, the audience, the viewer, let them come up with the conclusion as the facts are presented, right? So that is very important to know whenever you deal with some of these news medias. And it's not just local news media, there's state, national newspapers. You're seeing something that you've never seen in our lifetime, where some of these corporate news medias that dominated viewers, dominated America's attention, they are no longer the same corporation juggernauts that they once were. So now people are looking ever more now to these lower, I don't want to say lower, to these independent, smaller businesses, news medias that are coming up in response to people removing themselves from that media coverage, that national stage where, let's be honest, we were all being lied to about many situations. So news media is starting to shift, but you also have these laws that are tied to these news medias. Now, I never had a problem challenging a local, state, federal candidate or a elected official. I think that people need to be challenged and need to be called out, especially when they're determining how our tax dollars are being spent or managing our tax dollars. There's nothing wrong with calling out an elected official when they do something wrong, when they do something iffy, when something is going on. Now, we've seen several call outs recently by the local news media that we've been talking about, and we're going to show you some of the images or some of the papers as to why this statement came out. Now, we didn't know anything until we reached out to the county attorney to ask him about certain situations that were happening. Now, we monitor all the news medias as they come out. We see what they're writing, we see what's going on. And we do that to compare it to what we're putting out because we want to put out what's true. So we want to always monitor every kind of news media to see if there's an alternative outcome to some of the stories that we're investigating, we're looking at, we're presenting to you guys. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you so you can take a look at this one here. Okay, so usually when you deal with media and making any kind of statements where you're saying, like, I think that wall is white as opposed to that wall is red, those two statements give you two different things. One gives you leeway to kind of, well, no, I said I thought maybe it was the sun, maybe it was the light. That's what I thought under those conditions, you see. But whenever you make definite statements, such as that wall is red, you're not leaving any type of wiggle room whenever you say. I mean, you're saying it with positivity when you're saying that. So here we are, one of the newspapers, Latino, um, their candidate. So you move on. Es ilegal el arresto que ordenó Iracheta. And that's coming from a former county attorney, Miss Hernandez. So that's kind of strange. You typically do not see any type of legal processes, especially while cases are in the legal process. You do not see many of them being talked about in the in articles and news. Now, I know it's very important not to do play the media while you're going through a case because it can influence the jury pool. So this one here is a head scratcher, but there is a lot of things that were said with certainty about the situation when one of the sheriff's secretaries was arrested for, I believe it was falsification, or she was presenting as if she was a police officer, according to the reports. Um, she had she was driving the vehicle, an Operation Lone Star vehicle. I can tell you that in doing this, um, it, you're not supposed to use the vehicles in that manner. I could tell you that, but this case is all about that, and you see how the things are being played and what is being said. Now, I say that to set up the question I'm about to ask you as an audience, and I hope somebody's willing to answer. Do you think some of these things are written in a sense to influence a certain perception of somebody? In this case, the county attorney. Now, one thing I did notice, I mean, he's saying his last name, but he's not referring to him being in the county or being the county attorney, which is one of the things you need to be addressed as your elected official. Anyways, so you have a situation where he continues on telling about the story of what happened. You have a schema politico, so political scheme. I believe these are the opinions that are embedded within the news that is presented to everybody. So they go off and say their little bit. So that's one of the things we wanted to share with you. And we're going to share with you a more recent one that came out this week. So this is the one I wanted to kind of really touch on. Again, it's the same newspaper. La presunta víctima de abuso sexual. Espera que fiscal habrá investigación contra funcionario. So, just reading that sentence right off the bat, you can kind of tell, waiting for district attorney to open investigation against elected official, I guess, right? Now, there's a certain way that you can write something without putting your emotion into what you're writing. And I think that that's what's kind of happening here. Maybe not intentionally, but when you're trying to invoke an elected official, especially a prosecutor, to take some sort of action against anybody, really, not because it's a county attorney or anything like that, just anybody, that is setting a very dangerous environment for any regular person that's walking these streets right now. Let me go ahead and read that again so you can hear the way it sounds. Espera que fiscal habrá investigación contra funcionario. In other words, in other words, they're waiting for the district attorney to open investigation against someone, right? So that's leaving a kind of proposal. He's not giving you a fact, he's telling you what he wants. That he's waiting for the district attorney to open an investigation. Now, why would somebody feel the need to put that in the biggest font that they have, right smack in the middle of their first page in the newspaper? And it goes on to say a few things, and it tries to cite a certain type of laws, and laws are interpreted different ways. That's why you have lawyers on both sides of the law, right? Is or both sides of each case is that any word can mean several different things, and that's where I believe attorneys make their living is an interpretation of language and words and how they present their case to a jury or judge. So you have a situation where a newspaper is directly calling out for an investigation. Now, that is not a best practice situation that I say that I participate in. I don't think it's good to call anybody out to be investigated, even though some people do should have some investigations done on them. Let's be honest, but if you see what's going on here, take a step back, read the situation, read how the facts are being presented, and seeing how information is being dispersed. Now, you can get whichever political tabloid to spew information out to get the favor or influence that you're looking for. But again, there is a certain way that or a certain conduct integrity that needs to be followed, and following that integrity avoids situations of getting or being sued. So those are the things that I do want you guys to really see as voters here in Maverick County, Eagle Pass. Some of the things that you guys need to recognize and notice uh, as they happen. um, Now, news media is not there to fabricate facts. They are there to present the facts, and any way that their facts are presented, it's the bias of it, right? Now, anybody here that presents any type of content has a certain leaning, tendency, bias, whatever it is you want to call it. So that does need to be kept in mind. The other thing that needs to be thought or needs to go through viewers' heads is that you try to look for somebody, one, that fits your values, your needs in news and media and entertainment, but need to recognize you also need to recognize the situation where things are not always presented the way they should be. And it's difficult to sort out some of the things because you have people that just don't come out and call out the lies. That's where it gets difficult, guys. Is that when you're left alone trying to sort out through all this information. Let's see here. Latinos headlines always instill fear and biased opinions on things that never actually happen. I've never understood. Si vienen más arrestos. is one of their favorites. Okay, Maverick, thank you for that. Um, I mean, are they lying though? And that's what we're just trying to get at. I think that people need to kind of relax and who is a reliable source when it comes to information and who is not a reliable source when it comes to information. And it's difficult when some of these news medias out here are trying to make a living. I understand that, but they delve into a an area where they try to force the hand of some of these people out here that are running our city, running our county, running our districts. And I think that that's where people need to come in and monitor that situation, because I do know that if you allow somebody to dictate the status quo to you for 10 years, dictate that this is the only good person in town, this is the only whatever it may be, which if you guys remember not too long ago, before 2020, you had media that was completely one-sided here in this community. You never heard anything bad about a certain group of people, and if you did, they got shut down right away, or no one was allowed to speak up about certain situations that happened. Now everything is kind of turning around because that older regime is no longer relevant at this point. Now the regime is coming up with new faces to push through the pipeline, and that's expected, but you cannot change the facts of what has been done to our community and the damage that continues to be done because of um, these political targeted fights that keep on coming up because he's from that side and I'm from this side. Now, imagine this scenario where an old administration still has ties through other arms or branches of the local government and does not allow a new person that's just elected to get anything done because they have brick walls all over. That is a very, very relevant and real scenario of things that can happen, guys. And it may even be happening right now within your local government. That's why it's important to get to know these elected officials, these candidates that are running for these elected offices. And it's also very important to vet where you get your media, news, entertainment, where you get your information from. It's very important. Now, we put out a story not too long ago and we discussed the situation on how Maverick County was able to secure funding that was previously not reimbursed or not requested to be reimbursed by the former county auditor Raul Trevino. Fast forward, Raul Trevino no longer the county auditor. He is no longer there, but there's still situations that don't allow the county to move forward. Now, given that fact, and you can see from the commissioners' court meetings the turmoil that is being created and where the turmoil or who the turmoil is being created from. Everything is in the video, guys. I mean, you do not have to research very far to know that your community is the battlefield for political groups that are trying to secure the bag. And it is what it is. That's everywhere it goes. But I mean, anywhere you go, any state, any country, whatever, you need to realize that it's important to recognize the ones that are there doing good and the ones that are not there to do good. And that debate should be relevant as, I mean, should be as transparent as night and day, black and white. Getting in that gray area, stay out of the gray area, right? But you have the way it's going here in Eagle Pass, and every election now is bringing new groups, reform groups from former groups that have broken apart, and that's where things get interesting because you have new players to the game, you have new players to each side, and you're getting everybody coming harder than they've ever come hard before. Eagle Pass and Maverick County, these entities are starting to grow. They are starting to have budgets in the multi-million dollar amounts, and they're only going to get higher. So these political positions are not only going to continue to be magnified in the public, but they're very relevant and important, and that is needed. The vigilance by the community is very much needed in that situation. If you really think about it, Latino's main purpose is to bash Maverick County. Every week, front page has to include at least one negative narrative about how the county is ran. Wonder why. I mean, I think if our viewers are able to see it, everybody is able to see that um, you know, it's one thing to disagree, one thing to put out a report on something, but it's definitely another to continually harass not only a person but a political figure or what have you. And they need to answer questions, and I totally agree to that. And that's why, if you read our article about the what we're discussing, that's why we reached out directly to somebody that could give us some type of comment, some type of insight of the situation, because we continue to see these stories come out now. Nobody's come out and said give us the whole story, so we had to kind of come out and, hey, so what's going on with this? And those are the comments that we got, and we posted those comments. But it's you guys need to recognize and be cognizant of what media can do and what media is trying to do and what the purpose of media is. You need to go back and check who these individuals are that are running for office. Make sure they align with the integrity, morals, and values that you have. Because if they're tied to your morals, their values, and integrity, they're going to make the type of decisions that you want to be made. Not, if you don't feel confident with their integrity, how can you trust them to make a vote for the betterment of our community? Now, I'm not saying there's good, bad candidates. We're just getting started here at the Maverick Times for this election cycle, but it's going to be a doozy of it's going to be a doozy of a political cycle, because everybody is regrouping. Everybody, the teams are starting to reshape. People are starting to switch sides, and we don't know who's with who, where is what, or what is going to happen, guys. We're going to start bringing you more consistently these podcasts as time allows. We appreciate all of the people that watched us live, that popped in and out. We appreciate the people that are going to watch this after we finish. But one thing is an important thing to know is that you, the people, are the important ones in this. You guys are the ones who make or who decide to get in these political offices. And If you do not participate in the process, there is no one you can blame but yourself for not participating. So I encourage you guys to be vocal, ask questions. Again, if you guys want to comment a question, put the candidate if you want, put their name, put a question on this a video, and we can reach out to them, see if we can interview them. At the very least, we'll get your question answered as you want. So, guys, we're gonna go ahead and end it there. Sunday night. A lot of you guys will be off tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe we'll pop off on another podcast tomorrow, letting you know bright and early what's happening in your community. We're going to go ahead and sign off. We appreciate you jumping on. Do me a favor, if you're hearing this still, like this video, share it. It helps us spread our word. Like we do, we're going to go ahead and do our clips, do some highlights, improve our video for you guys to watch and cast the best parts of our podcast today. We appreciate it. Signing off. It's the Maverick Times. Have a nice night.